I was standing in the middle of the ashes that used to be my living room when the fire marshal told me it wasn't an accident. Somebody had poured accelerant along the back porch. Somebody had planned this. And deep down, I already knew who it was. The same people who'd been circling me for months, the same HOA that I refused to bow to. My name's David Rourke. I've lived in Maplewood Grove, Virginia for years. Quiet neighborhood manicured lawns, identical mailboxes, all the things real estate brochures brag about. I'm a retired Navy man now, a federal judge. I keep to myself, pay my taxes, mow my lawn on time. I'm not the kind of guy looking for a fight. But the moment I told the homeowners association I wasn't interested in their little club, I became public enemy number one. It started with Brenda Collins. You've met her type before, stacked haircut clipboard clutched like a weapon, perfume so strong it walks in 3 seconds before she does. She marched up my front steps, stared at my porch light like it was a personal insult, and told me I was ruining the community cohesion. Her exact words. I crossed my arms and told her flat out I never signed a contract and she couldn't retroactively force me into anything. I'll never forget the way her eyes narrowed like I had just spit in her HOA-approved flower bed. She hissed, "People who don't follow the rules, they pay." The very next week, I got my first violation. My mailbox was apparently non-uniform. Funny, since it was the exact same black aluminum design every other house had. Then came the fine for unauthorized paint color. My house was beige, and the same beige it had always been. It was laughable until my car tires got slashed. Then someone spray-painted "Join" or "Leave" across my driveway. That was the night I installed cameras, and wouldn't you know it, the vandal turned out to be Brenda's own nephew. I called the cops, but they waved it off. Kids being kids. Right. Kids with access to HOA board meetings. I started documenting everything. Letters, fines, photos of the damage. Even a recording of Brenda herself muttering, "If he won't join, he won't stay." Still, I told myself I could endure it. I'd been through worse in the service. But then came the night of the fire. I walked into a nightmare door, kicked in walls, blackened roof collapsed. My dog Max was only alive because he'd been at the vet that afternoon. I stood there choking on smoke, watching firefighters drag hoses across my backyard, and I felt something I hadn't in decades, helpless. This wasn't some neighborhood spat anymore. Someone had tried to erase me, and for the first time I wondered if maybe I'd brought it on myself. Maybe I should have just paid the stupid dues, signed the forms, let Brenda have her power trip. Maybe then I'd still have a home. Nights in the hotel were the worst. Staring at the ceiling, replaying the flames in my head, asking myself if I had the strength to keep fighting. Selling the lot and disappearing seemed like the only sane move. But that's when Detective Rowan showed up. He wasn't like the others. He walked into that beige conference room with a box of files, dropped it on the table, and said, "You were right." Inside were photos, bank statements, even testimony from a contractor Brenda had paid under the table to handle problem properties. He admitted to slashing tires, sabotaging sprinklers, even egging houses. Not just mine, anyone who pushed back against her fees. He swore he didn't light the fire, but he knew who did. And Rowan told me the HOA's financials were a mess, cash withdrawals just under the reporting limit, all signed by Brenda. This wasn't about community, it was a racket. For the first time since the fire, I felt a spark in my chest. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't alone. A few neighbors started whispering too. Margaret, the retired schoolteacher, told me Brenda fined her because her roses didn't fit the neighborhood character. Another guy said his daughter's car was threatened with towing for having the wrong bumper sticker. They'd all been bullied, just like me. So I called a meeting at the park. Dozens showed up, nervous at first, then furious as the stories spilled out. People realized we'd all been living in fear, isolated by Brenda's threats. I stood there still smelling smoke on my clothes, and I told them I have evidence. I've already filed a federal civil case against the HOA, but I'm not doing this alone anymore. If she's done this to you, write it down. We're building a case. And for the first time I saw Brenda pale. The tide was turning. The climax came fast. Police raided her house, found burner phones, text messages coordinating payments with hired vandals. One message even spelled it out, "Make sure he's scared enough to leave." They traced the money trail straight from HOA accounts to a prepaid debit card used to buy gasoline at a hardware store 2 miles from my home. I was in the courthouse when I signed the order freezing the HOA's assets. Brenda's lawyer tried to argue, but the evidence was too clean. The night they arrested her, I sat in my truck down the street. She was still in her robe, screaming at the officers, swearing this was a vendetta. Neighbors gathered on the lawns, not silent anymore, but shouting back. "You destroyed us for money," someone yelled. "You don't care about community." She was shoved into the back of a squad car while the crowd watched. And just like that, the Queen of Maplewood Grove fell. By morning, the HOA was suspended fines, voided accounts locked. Residents who'd been too scared to speak now came forward in droves, stories of blackmail, forged votes, threats to take homes away. The whole machine unraveled. And I stood there in the park, arms crossed, realizing I'd gone from a quiet loner to the man who cracked the entire thing open. Brenda Collins, the self-appointed guardian of Maplewood Grove, was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for conspiracy fraud and attempted murder. Other board members took plea deals. And the HOA that tried to burn me out of my own house, it was dissolved permanently. I lost a home, sure. But watching her taken away in handcuffs, I knew I'd reclaim something far more important. Power without accountability is just tyranny with better landscaping.